So episode 3, I'm going to keep this short. I've been making these really long episodes, and I keep deleting episode 3 and starting over because I'm trying to like say everything and have all of my bases covered, and like try and think of every critique someone might have about a point or a different perspective of how in that context that wouldn't be right, and kind of lay all of those out every episode. And I'm just gonna not do that. I think the number of episodes I'll get out if I do it that way will be so much less, and I'll have said so much less, that I'm just gonna try and extract the valuable stuff that we've learned at Pandora and share that in its own little things, and know that I hope everyone will know that if you're looking at it from a particular context that makes it seem horrendous, that wasn't the context I meant it in. And that I'm very much still a learner and a student of camming. I think I do know some things, but I'm happy to be proven wrong on everything. And I don't feel I'm speaking as like the final word on anything. These are just ideas and concepts we've came up with that I think will be valuable to more people than I've shared them with currently. They're working for the people I'm sharing them with now. I'm gonna give them to the world on the premise that that might get me more clients in the future and I'll make more money. It's pretty straightforward. So today, I think the first premise that I want to put out, where if we all agree on this premise, then everything will be good after this, because then we'll just be kind of debating the meanings of things. My premise is that the customer is the most important individual. Seems self-evident. If customers don't spend money, we don't exist, or our work doesn't exist. And the thing that makes customers spend money is customers, you know, what they value, what they want, what they need, and how they think they can acquire it. And I see camming as a feelings business, as a relationships business. I don't look at it as live sex cams. I don't discount live sex cams, but I think that's it's a little cheap of a way to look at everything that's going on here, to just describe it as that, because it's so much more virtual relationships and virtual intimacy and emotions and stuff. The sort of like Amsterdam sex club marquee of live nude girls it just isn't the most accurate representation of what actually ends up happening on campsites. That's my only complete there. So I like the term adult video chat. I tend to try and use that, and that's what I talk about. So in that realm, the thing that makes it a business and not just chat roulette, if that's still a thing, is the customer valuing something we're doing enough to pay money for it. And this is the basic premise of every business. You have to value the customer. What the customer values is the thing that decides the market. They set the prices, they set everything. Not one by one at a time, but like if more people want gasoline, based on how much gasoline there has, supply and demand, and like the demand is customers' desire to spend money on what we're doing. And you know, the supply isn't how many models are on a site or anything like that. There's an element of that, but the supply is how well are we able to, as individuals, make that connection with customer, make them feel something, make them want something, and make them want to spend money interacting with you. I see it that way entirely. Like I'm not in any way thinking camming's a zero-sum game, and that dollars spent on a model who doesn't work for us are dollars that then can't be spent on us. A tiny bit, but that's so much less important. Like what the total revenues and things are, aggregate of all the sites. That's so much less important to us than the one-to-one thing. Our viewpoint is always that one-to-one. One model interacting with one customer. What's happening? How do we do that more good there? And like with a little bit of faith that like all the aggregate stuff works itself out from that. So you'll see in these videos, I just obsess over that customer, model, what is going on here, and how can we how can we on our side with performers be more of what customers want. So a lot of people don't seem to do it that way, in my experience. A lot of people, like I start with people from their first day in camming, and I'm with them throughout their careers. Not everyone. There's people who've cammed and then join us. There's people who join us and then decide I'm a douche and leave and go cam somewhere else, or they decide that another site's a better fit for them. That's all fine. But the normal interaction with most of the top performers at Pandora, all of them, I think, their first day in cam, I was involved. I wasn't on cam with them or anything, but like they were at Pandora. I chatted with them in most cases. There was going to be some conversation with us around it. We knew each other their first day and have known each other since. And so I can tell you, having been like the main recruiter there, most of them didn't come into it with the philosophy of, okay, I'll cam because I believe that the customers on cam, who I don't understand or know exist at all, and I'm skeptical are even a real thing at this point, are the most important thing, and that my role would be to entertain and perform in a way that the customer values, in order to cause commerce to happen. No one puts that on their application. And we all start out selfishly. Like, I didn't start Pandora modeling because I thought that it would just be a great charitable, altruistic thing to do. I thought there were some good things I could do and I would make money doing that. Doing well by doing good. If you bring that philosophy on cam, you'll do well. If you do good things for customers, you get a lot further. And like, people learn pretty quickly in a lot of cases. You learn that what the customer values is what matters, and you want to understand, like, why is someone spending money on me? Why are they pressing this private show? What makes them want to press that button? What makes them want to tip? What makes them want to do all those things? And you want to understand that. So this does happen somewhat organically, but I want to push it to the extreme on the other end, to where like how much, because I know it's impossible, but what I mean is you can value your view on things, or you can value the customer's view on things, and the default everyone goes to is to value their view on things. As things get tough, as there's boring days, as you question whether camming is the thing you want to be doing, as anything, you're always sliding back towards that sort of self-centered view. If you can stay on the customer-centered view, and always be focusing on the customer, always be focusing on the customer, always be focusing on the customer, you just do a lot better. It's a lot easier work. And so I want to just kind of like make the mindset of only focusing on the customer, because at best you're going to get like 80 to 90% of the way there. Very few people are going to completely transcend their sense of selves and just totally assume the identity of the customer to be able to understand everything about them. That's hard to do. So even if you believe that philosophically, or practically, or anything, if you believe that, if you grant me that the customer is the most important thing in this equation, a very large percentage of the kind of default behaviors and patterns and habits and activities that cam models do are not in service of that belief, are not furthering that, are not what you would do if you believed that and had a sort of good understanding of how to implement that. I think most people do believe that, the first part. And so what I would like to do is propose some concepts on how to more effectively implement that. Yeah, I'm just going to go into them. So the first thing is chase. Great models pursue customers aggressively. If someone comes into their room and does a show with them or tips them, they take it upon themselves to be the one who's going to create this relationship and make it a thing. So like if you come to my room, you like me, would be the model's perspective. I'm going to make sure you don't forget who I am. I'm going to make sure that this goes somewhere. And generally doing that in a very flirtatious, fun, seductive way. Making the customers feel special and chasing them. The simple act of chasing them. And by chasing them, I mean sending them messages while you're offline, following up with them. Like early on, it's some of it's very, very basic. If after the first interaction that they've had a positive interaction with you, later that day or the next morning or something, you send them a message continuing the emotional experience that was happening in that first interaction in some way, whether it's just saying thank you and being appreciative, or continuing the chat you were having in that, or commenting on something you learned about them, any of that stuff. Just kind of that delayed message says, I care about you and you matter to me. Matter enough that while I'm not online, while I'm not getting paid, while I'm not streaming, I was thinking about you and sending you a message. That is an extremely compelling thing to do for customers. Great models do that. And that's like phase one of that. It goes to phase infinity as long as it lasts, doing things like that. That makes customers feel wanted. Just the act of chasing them is in itself a seductive and compelling thing. If they were useless pieces of dirt, you wouldn't chase them. This is when I get to why it's so hard for me to ever engage with FinDom people on things. It's because I know that like the people who are doing the best at FinDom in the world don't believe that the people they're talking to are scum. But like some of them do. The people who are not as good at it, and like and this is a battle that we all have. Holding the customers in high regard can be so hard because inevitably when you're on cam, you're interacting with tons of people that are not people that you would, could, or should hold in high regard. There will be people who are just coming into your room and being mean. There will be people who spend money on you just to be mean. Those things happen, and so it's very, very easy to become jaded. What you have to build into yourself is this like resilience and like insurance for yourself against getting jaded by constantly thinking about your ideal customer, who you want, what they look like, what they value, how they speak, how all of that is, and searching for that because they're out there, and relentlessly focusing on that and kind of ignoring all the noise along the way. That would be very helpful to you to do. So don't spend time complaining about the customers who don't spend money the way you want them to, the customers who don't behave how you like, the customers who are rude, the customers that like just silently, this is the thing, silently block anyone that gives you bad vibes, and stick with that. Like you don't need to make an example of people that are rude to you. You don't need to screenshot them being in like, this motherfucker's getting banned, to let everyone else know that if they don't behave how you want them to, they'll get banned also. You don't need to do any of that. Silently ban. Don't ever give that person an explanation why they're being banned. Don't ever interact with them. If they make a new account, ban that account. It takes 2 seconds to ban people. Ban all the bad people quickly, instantly, and silently. You can at times talk about like, hey, sometimes I ban people. These are the things people do that it makes me just kind of quietly ban them. I don't like to draw attention to it when it happens. I just get rid of people that I find unpleasant. I recommend everyone else do that too. Say that. Don't make it a big, don't try to validate yourself by banning people. It's just a waste of time. Ban them, focus on the customers that will for sure validate yourself. And I don't mean validate in that you're an insecure person who needs external validation. Of course that's not the case. You're all perfect. But that if you're working hard at camming and you take it seriously, having good results on cam validates that you're good at your job. And that's exciting and fun, and we all like feeling that. So tunnel vision on that ideal customer. And if you've been camming for a while, like think of all the people who spent money on you, of all the boys you've loved before, and what were the the days and the times in which it was like this is awesome. Like if camming was this all the time, I'd do it nonstop. If you ever had that experience where it started to feel that way, and if you have, think a lot about it. Who was the customer? What was the situation? And like, recognize that it's not one customer. It's not that one dude was just a cool customer and you just need that specific dude back, because you're probably not going to get him back if he's gone. So much pain and suffering and waste has occurred from losing a big spender and waiting years for them to return. As soon as someone's not live and engaged in that moment, there's a part of you that's just assumed that they're dead. Because the turnover is extremely high. I'm not actually saying that they're dead or that you shouldn't care when people are offline, but like, if you have a falling out with a customer, if someone disappears and doesn't come back, waiting is not a great strategy. Create new things all the time. New relationships with customers. That's what we're creating. And so, you know, a lot of people, I feel like, just miss that part, that what we're doing is creating relationships with customers. And like, why? Guess what? That's the thing that customers value. In terms of what's driving spending on the site, much more is driven by, not by a one-off jack-off session with the customer. That there's plenty of that, yeah. But like, customers, on the whole, are more often than not looking for repeat activity. They're looking for a person that makes them feel the way they want to feel. And if you're that person, as long as you're the person that makes them feel the way they want to feel, they'll keep coming back to you. And there are customers who will go and do shows with 50 different people, and then they'll find the one person that's like, this will do. This is suitable recurring levels of the feelings that I want to feel, and they'll be a loyal customer of that person for indefinitely. And like, once a customer gets comfortable doing private shows and spending money with you, it becomes hard for them to go do private shows and spend money with other people. Particularly like the more specific the customer is, meaning the more that their fetish is whatever. Whether it's a relationship fetish, they want to be your boyfriend and tell you they love you and read romantic poetry together and talk for hours and hours and every day. If it's that, well, guess what? Once they've done that for a while, they're invested in you. And they will continue to do it. They'll just continue. I've been a witness to customers working very hard to maintain a relationship with a performer. That in times was becoming too much for the performer, and the person was like, I can't keep. I don't think I can keep doing these long private shows with you because it's just becoming too much. And the customer saying like, okay, can we, if we do it less often, like what if we take these days off per week, and like you can then have your own life there, and then we can talk the other days, and like the person who's bringing all the money and spending all the money and all the money and all the money is sort of like desperately negotiating to be able to keep spending that money, from a really basic way to look at it. But they're looking to preserve the relationship. It's important to them. It should be important to all of you if you want to succeed at our business. And creating those relationships are where all of the value lies. That's what gets you from it being just a constant grind, never knowing where your day's credits are going to come from, to having a durable, reliable income that's predictable and understandable and a lot higher in basically every case. And I don't mean that you're going to find some super rich guy who will just be the one person that spends all the money on you and you'll be able to retire off of that. Yeah, that happens. But I actually don't think it's ideal. When that happens, like that becomes the type of thing that does take over your life. It's sort of a lot easier to have like 8 people who aren't spending a fortune, but are spending a significant amount of money. They have a relationship with you that's very serious and means a lot to them. But it isn't sort of the only thing going on in either of your lives. You can have a much better quality of life at doing it that way. Finding, 8 to 20 to whatever, like depends. In that capacity, it's going to depend on, you know, who the customers are, what their spending capacity and spending interest level is. Some people have 1, some people have 6, some people have 300, and like we can see someone make 100 grand a year in each of those instances. You kind of, to get to the 1, you have to build 300. It's extremely rare to just snap and get a person that will spend a fortune on you without having built an audience and having a lot of different relationships with people that to where you find the ones where you guys have the right fit. But that's what it is. It's relationships. Like, that is the thing that customers value more than everything else. They value it more than your ability to masturbate really, really, really good in a way that's cool to watch. All of the sexual elements on cam are sort of, to me, enhancers of that relationship. And I hope this is clear enough. Since I'm speaking to cam models, it certainly is. If I was trying to explain this to civilians, maybe not. But if you spend time on cam, I think you understand this. Or you can understand it. Sex is not the primary thing. And that's different from meaning that sex isn't important, or that sexual expression isn't a major part of what we're doing. It is, but it's in service to that relationship that I'm talking about, which is the container in which customers feel things. The relationship they have with you, whether that's lasting 10 minutes or years, in their relationship with you, in this virtual environment, they're coming to feel something. And the sexual performances that models do, that allows the customer to become turned on and aroused and have an erotic experience, that's a lot of feeling. That's a high dose, a high octane feel thing. And like, one of the reasons in which we're able to have these relationships that defy logic to a lot of people. Like, this guy spends $10,000 a month chatting with this girl. And sometimes she gets naked, yes, but they also just talk about what she had for dinner and what he had for dinner and what movies they like to watch. Like, there's also just a ton of that going on. Maybe 5% of it is sex things. Well, why would anyone spend so much money on companionship? Like, that's a long rabbit hole into the relative value of money and how like loneliness is the most killer, awful thing ever, and that if you have money and are lonely, you'll spend all of it to not feel lonely. We're taking advantage of that, but also there's just this other thing in that sexual thing that who else is doing that besides scam models? Who else is doing an interactive, you can masturbate while you're doing this thing that's interactive, I will also, and like anything you've ever wanted to see or experience with the human body, mine specifically in this instance, we can do that. That's such an amazing container, and also it's private and anonymous, meaning the person doesn't have to censor themselves. They don't have to hold back. They don't have to be polite even, or necessarily, but like all the things that we would consider that would make it hard to express ourselves around people in person. Fear of being made fun of, fear of not being accepted, fear of not being loved, all of those things kind of fade away on cam. And like, if someone has a really weird thing and they express it to you and you're like, you're weird, get the fuck out of here, they do. And then there's another room, and 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 another room. And so customers can be kind of fearless in expressing themselves. And like, the joy as a human of being in any capacity able to like express who you really are, it just feels good to do that. That's self-actualizing, like, and like, for better or for worse. But we're all afraid that that people would not approve of us if we did that, and so we hide, we pull back, we close off. But we're so excited by people who are able to not do that. We're creating experiences where customers are able to do that. in a lot of cases, this is the only way that they're able to do that. There's nothing going on in their real life that would allow them to have these feelings and to express themselves in this way. And at the same time, the model's often expressing themselves. It's a lot less faked and put on than most people would like to think about. Everything becomes very, very real in the fantasy world of cam that we exist in. Yeah. When you become the thing that people can use to self-actualize, when you become the thing that is the most erotic experience in someone's world, when you become the thing that can reliably make someone feel aroused, the durable potential of that is just, we haven't seen the end of it yet. In terms from a business perspective, like how far can things go between a customer and a model? That is always being pushed to new heights every week on the site. It's a fascinating thing. We don't know. We'll see. But there's never going to be a point where it's like, okay, that's how far it can go. The rabbit hole always goes deeper, and I think that I'm going to title the episode this, and kind of leave it at that. I think it's enough of a primer to this idea that what the customer values is most important. You have to start with that premise. We have to just accept what they value and adapt to that. We're not in the business of changing people's minds about what their fetishes are. If they're into feet, we're gonna have to kind of go along with that, because to try and just have them into hands instead, they're like feet but with longer. I just haven't found. I can be convincing, but I haven't found a way to convince people out of wanting what they want or to spend money on things that they don't want. Just that's not a good strategy. So let's understand them and adapt. Has always been the idea. And if you're interested in that and you're like, okay, I'm with that, so how do I understand them? Understand that what they value more than anything is relationships with you, and that you just have to be pursuing customers in relationships. Learn who they are, get to know them, take notes on them, because you're going to be doing it with a lot of different people. Take notes on them, write down things that they say, write down little things that are peculiar or unique about them, study them, get them to tell you their story and who they are. Whether it's the story that's true or the story that they want you to believe, both are valid. Just learn, be curious. Don't stop digging, and you will 100% have times where you don't believe anything I just said, and where the idea that there are customers with whom these relationships are possible, that's worth doing, will be hard to see. It would be hard to believe. And having the desire to do the relationships at times will be hard. Push through that a bit would be my advice. Having like the faith that the relationships with customers are what drive things, and that you have to build your audience one person at a time, and build those relationships one person at a time, and you have to do it every single time. There aren't really any shortcuts. Being understanding that's the game that everyone's in, and that's what you have to do, and that the skills that you need are what will make you better at that, I think would be a big paradigm shift from the way that a lot of people operate. And so that means next login, you say, who is my audience? Who are these customers? Who are these people? How well do I know my fans? Do I know everyone's names and where everyone lives and what everyone's deepest, darkest secrets are? If you don't, get the fuck to work, because you're slacking. And if you know that about all of your core fans and all of your main regulars and all that, and like you've gone down those rabbit holes, or you're in the process of going down those rabbit holes, continue meeting more people, continuing opening new pathways. That this is what a great model's career looks like, and that's how days are spent, just doing that work. So It's actually the end of the video. I was recording it yesterday, and it hit the thing where recording stopped automatically because the video file was a little long. That happens on my camera somewhat. And I was about to say, thanks, bye, and that was going to be done. And so I just left it at that and didn't record the next part on that. So I'm recording on my phone right now to slip in. And now, thanks, bye, credits.